let's have a look. We are into this first game. Divine him, you can see there with the Wild Pyromancer, very much control priesty, and Dan is running the Odd Rogue, but he's got Mecharoo in there, so a little bit of a change from what we've seen from previous. Ooh, Twilight Drake in opening hands, not bad. I mean, if you're an even lock, you'd love that.
So Dan's not actually running any magnetic mechs. He's basically treating this Mecharoo as just another one-drop. Right,
so just wants to maybe increase his win rate versus things like Odd Paladin and things like that. Just make sure he's got extra things to get on the board to contest, which I can understand. Definitely understand with the prevalence of things like Odd Paladin.
Now, one of the interactions with Mecharoo compared to, say, an Argent Squire is that when you cold blood the Mecharoo and the front half dies, you don't retain the buff. But with Squire, you would. So definitely slightly weaker as a one-drop.
He does have Squire in his deck, though. I'm trying to think what he took out for this.
Looks like he took out one of the 3s, I think.
Yeah, he's got Blink Fox and he's got Hench Clan. So he took one. I think you only run one Blink Fox usually anyway, do you?
Yeah, oftentimes some of the lists will run Void Ripper.
He is running Magnetic, by the way. He's running double War Gear.
Oh, I didn't notice that at the start.
Yeah, so he's slightly spiced things up here for the usual Odd Rogue decks.
Of course, he runs double Giggling Inventor as well, which is another target for War Gear.
So giving himself some more tool minion capability here on the Odd Rogue side of things. And let's see what DeadDraw, he's obviously just got a Dustbreaker in hand, he's got an Activator, which is great, Master Spell is there. It's not a bad hand. I mean, not contesting anything super early right now, but we'll have a beefy Twilight Drake to play if he wants to.
I mean, DeadDraw certainly doesn't look that happy about the situation so far.
No.
I'm not sure if that's his game face or just general mood. So,
I mean, you could get coin Vile Spined if you play the Twilight Drake here.
Yeah.
So that just feels bad. I mean, Master Spell to later then play the Dustbreaker seems like a good shout.
Yeah, Master Spell kind of paves the way for this Dustbreaker. And also another downside other than the Vile Spine, like you mentioned, is that it's the only dragon in hand to activate the Dustbreaker right now. So if you were to play the Twilight Drake, you wouldn't be able to potentially use the Dustbreaker when you need it.
So now, Dan, in his head, he'll be thinking of two things. Did he play that because he had nothing else to play? Or is he setting up for a Dustbreaker?
Yeah.
So that is the two thought processes that Dan will end up having. But to be honest, Giggling is not a bad pickup into a Dustbreaker because you still retain those Annoyatrons, just minus Ladderbind Shield.
And he does have the War Gear in hand, so they are ready to be buffed.
Looking good for Dan at the start of this game.
So when you're playing the Odd Rogue, generally you want to try and get the most threatening board you can before turn 7. Because it's kind of essentially free damage, because a lot of the time the priest is wanting to just lose the board early and then just, you know, clear it all away with a Psychic Scream down the line.
There we go. War Gear comes out and he can go Tool. Interesting question. I don't think it's the case. You can't Master Spell a War Gear off, can you? So it's not.
No, you can.
Oh, it is.
You can silence them. Yeah.
That is something I didn't know. So I'm glad.
So a Master Spell actually does.
Damn, that feels bad. You silence a minion.
Yeah.
So like literally, a minion has merged, like polymorphous or whatever they call it. What do they call it in Yu-Gi-Oh? Polymerization.
I have not played Yu-Gi-Oh, so I couldn't answer that for you.
Polymerization, and you've just silenced one of the half of the polymerizations off.
Interesting that when you silence an Annoyatron, it's the Annoyatron that stays around, given that that's probably the loudest of the two minions.
Philosophy Hearthstone here on the ESL Premiership.
What is an Annoyatron, really?
Well, it's rather annoying.
Yes.
Double Psychic Scream in hand for DeadDraw will mean that the next couple of turns, if things get too dire, there is always going to be an out for him. He also has got a good amount of spells to work with the Wild Pyromancer.
Choosing not to go for a Vile Spine this turn, which is strange. I think he's probably going to use the deck hand to clear off this Dustbreaker.
Yeah, I thought he was also thinking about Arcurus Veteran and trading in, but yeah, I think just deck hand, Arcurus Veteran, and then Redagger is... No, you can't do that.
I mean, something he could do is deck hand, clear, and then Cold Blood this 1-2 and start pushing a lot of damage.
Yes, for sure.
Because if you double Cold Blood, it's before Anduin. It's before Primordial Drake.
Maybe he just wants to retain the Cold Bloods in hand, and maybe he wants that surprise burst because he's got the Holy Fire as well.
Yeah, this could be a case of DeadDraw's just not going to play around this much amount of burst damage. So Dan's just trying to keep it a secret.
DeadDraw can clear things up here, though. He can Pyromancer, Shield, Divine him. He also can steal with the Cabal Shadow Praise. He could also just Psychic Scream. So he's got options on board.
The Divine him, to me, looks like a very clean turn. You can trade your Dustbreaker and then do the him. That way you get the maximum benefit of the heal. He's going for the shield first, which means you cannot do the value trade, but he's going for just a heal instead. Doesn't want to use...
to heal his face, so... Because if you traded first and then Power Urge shielded, then you just lose your Dustbreaker, right?
Right.
So maybe he just wants to heal face.
No, this is good ordering, actually, because he just gets an extra bit of heal.
Yeah. And that will give him some barrier now against Danswf, who has got options. I mean, look, he's got options for days in this hand. I mean, you could Valspine now, which you argued should have come down earlier. You have the option to just charge a Southsea in and use a Holy Fire to clear up. You can get some shenanigans going with the SI7. What looks most appealing to you in this situation?
Dan's kind of backed himself into a bad spot. He was probably expecting, oh, the priest probably has to, you know, use a scream at some point. But DeadDraw's found a way to compete on board without having to use his expensive removal options. So Dan now has to kind of, you know, play it on the board again and stop just going for this face strategy because it's not going to work at this point. One of the downsides to using Valspine now is you don't have it for a Primordial Drake, which is one of the big targets that you want it for. But he might be just forced to.
Maybe holding on to all this burst has not worked out for him. There was a lot of cards in DeadDraw's hand, so Dan probably was just expecting, like you said, the Psychic Scream.
Wow, he's just going in for the face strategy.
And maybe just hoping that Leroy turns up soon. I mean, I don't see how you win with this strategy.
I mean, you don't have enough damage in hand right now. You're blocked off by taunts. You don't have an activator for your Valspine anymore. This just seems like way too all in for me when you're not completely lost.
It seemed like a tilt turn.
Yeah, I'm not too sure on this.
I'm guessing he was hoping that there would be no taunt and Holy Fire Dagger would get him there.
This Valspine is actually very strong there.
Yeah. Holy Fire wouldn't even got him there, actually. He was one off. Yeah.
But now he's put himself in a situation where it's quite strong.
Yeah. Holy Fire could get him there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, DeadDraw's probably going to pay attention to his health total.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to scream this, right? He knows that he's in Leroy range now.
Dan, by the way, does know that DeadDraw runs a Gluttonous Ooze. So redaggering here potentially heals DeadDraw for 2 if he wants to take that line.
It would be a heads-up play if he didn't dagger, because he needs the dagger for lethal if this board gets
Yeah,
cleared.
but it's just a case of, do you need all of your 9 mana next turn?
That's a bonk. Right,
you might be wanting to play Baku onto the board, so I think it does make sense. Wow, Alexstrasza.
Yes, I just saw that get top deck there for DeadDraw. It was probably the perfect top deck in that situation. How much damage have we got here for Dan? He's got 5, 6, 8 plus 5. So he's got 13 damage. He's 2 off lethal.
Wow. So maybe the strategy of Dan of just going to the face is working out a bit better than first gave it credit for.
And then he just needs to hope for a dagger hit face, if there's no heal, which there will be probably. But if you're forcing the priest to heal every turn, he's basically stuck on 8 mana for the whole game. So,
right, and you're going to find extra damage somewhere down the line. So for DeadDraw, he will find his extra healing in the form of what's the card called? Divine Hymn.
Yes.
Apologies. So it's kind of a race between, can DeadDraw find the extra healing in time before Dan finds the extra damage?
I will silence this.
Well, Patches Volume 2 comes out, but it is a beefy minion on board. Forces an 8 damage trade with the Alexstrasza.
Yeah, it doesn't feel that great to do it here, and Anduin is a pretty good pickup.
Yes, but you do lose your Alexstrasza, obviously, so you could just jam Alexstrasza into the 3-4 and then go for the Anduin. You could even just Psychic Scream this board, but then you do give over the Alexstrasza to Dan.
One thing that by doing the Anduin here is you cap your health total. You can no longer use your hero power to trade.
Yes.
Dan's on a very healthy 27, so burning them out with Anduin
might be tough. Might be tough. He's happy to take the 7 damage burst heal just off the Anduin and clear the board up here.
It's going to allow him to play the board a lot better in the future, but it is going to mean Dan has a potential to find that burst damage. Of course, DeadDraw doesn't know about the Holy Fire in hand, so he thinks 17 is a lot healthier of a life total than it actually is in this case.
I think you have to think about it though, because you know that it is obviously a random priest card. He hasn't played it, so it's not been low enough mana to be a combo activator for him.
Yeah.
You'll be thinking in your head, like, what is worst case scenario?
Sure, Mind Blast is another 5 damage.
Yeah, yeah.
So there are a few.
He would have had lethal if that was Mind Blast by now, though. I think close to anyway.
Close to, yeah. Now it's been revealed. DeadDraw knows what I need to play around, and Dan's doing this now just to give him the option to get the lethal with a top deck.
I actually don't mind this exactly. I don't mind it because there is no heal now apart from Divine Hymn for DeadDraw. And the only way that you survive if Leroy gets top deck is if you have a taunt.
Yep.
And I don't know how many taunts. There's probably 1 Primordial Drake left in the entire deck.
There is a bit of extra healing in the Gluttonous Ooze.
I feel like this is a good Gluttonous Ooze turn. Because it's going to be better, you know, it's as good as any, really. It gives you exactly 1 more turn if Leroy gets top decked. Right.
I mean, you're not dead to Leroy, barring extra burst damage now, so you might not have to do it because you know there's going to be another dagger next turn. You could use this turn to just ping off these 1-2s, or it's going to control them instead, actually.
I suppose it doesn't make that much of a difference because
this 1 damage actually doesn't really change any breakpoints.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
All of the rogue's damage comes in sort of even forms, things like Deadly Poison, Fungal Mancer, Leroy. They're all even damage, so putting an odd health total like 9 is essentially the same as 10 in this situation.
And he's happy to just... This gives him longevity over numerous turns. So it allows him to trade a bit better over the course of the next few turns. And Dan knows exactly what his win condition is. His win condition is probably now a few extras. He's got the Deadly Poison, which puts him to within 1 of lethal. He needs Leroy, which gives him lethal. And I like this from Dan. He just knows that, to be honest, at this point, he's winning the game with a top deck, and it's a top deck of burst damage.
Both Cold Bloods have been used.
Yes.
So in terms of buffing this deck hand, there is a Fungal Monster available. So that's probably a reason to hold it. Also, if a taunt comes down and you top deck a Valspine, you're going to want an activator for that. For DeadDraw, he's trying to put on the most amount of pressure on the backswing. So if he doesn't draw that heal, he can actually just win via just burning Dan out of the game.
If I were him this turn, I'd probably steal another minion, play Northshire and play Guthness.
Seems reasonable.
Can you fit that on board? You can fit that on board, can't you? Yeah. That gives you exactly 7.
So, taking this 1 damage, does he set up lethal this way, I think?
He would have set up lethal, I think, if he traded, but he's got Mind Blast and he's got some hits. He's got 8, 12. Yeah, I think that's lethal next turn. I think it's very, I mean, if not, it's very close.
Yeah, no, it is. He's set up lethal with this board because the Mind Blast
18.
and ping.
Yeah, literally just needs to ping and Mind Blast to win. So that was good heads up stuff from DeadDraw there.
So of course taking the trade there because he knows he has the lethal anyway, so may as well be safe. And Dan has to decide where he wants to send this SI.
Probably the South at this point as well. I think you have to reveal your game plan.
Because it has to be a Leroy at this point. There's nothing else that really does it. You could send 6 to the face this turn.
You need to take off at least 3 power off board, right, to survive?
Yeah, assuming he knows there's a Mind Blast, which is pretty reasonable at this point. There's not a lot of cards that DeadDraw can have left in hand. So choosing not to play anything at all, I don't like this really.
Yeah, I mean, you were 7 damage off lethal. I mean, not too far-fetched, right?
I don't see what these minions do on your next turn that they don't do now.
Yeah.
Like you either send them to face or you use them to kill off like the 4/4.
Yeah, it required you, like, if you took out a 4-4 on board, that kept you in non-lethal position the next turn, and then that allowed you with just I mean, the only thing I think that actually got down there was Leroy, right?
I mean, by holding the deck hand with the SI in hand, he could have got there with a Fungal Monster.
Yes.
That's the only way, provided he didn't die, which is...
Did you need to hold the deck?
You didn't.
Oh, but you needed to activate the SI to get the value out of it.
So it's kind of, yeah.
It was tough. I mean, look, I understand. I think we're focusing on the end of the game there. I think there was some weird mid-game turns from Dan, and I think there was a bit where he went all in with the deck hand to make a 10-1. Wasn't, you know, I mean, I understand why he did it. Like, he was like, okay, I think I'm losing board now, so my game plan is to hit them in the face. But I don't think he was out of it completely at that point.
But interesting strategy, and it almost got there for him.
I mean, look, we have to give it credit where credit is due. It did almost get there, but it didn't. At the end of the day, it wasn't the winning strategy for him. I mean, I think if you go back and calculate what was the winning strategy, it'd be very difficult with those top decks. He didn't really have the best top decks in the world. You got like Firefly and then SI, and it's not fantastic. Right, we are going to be moving on to the next round here, and we're going to have not the next round, next game. And it is going to be Odd Rogue versus Odd Paladin, I think, here coming out from Dan.
Looks like it, yeah.
It looks very classic Odd Paladin as well. Nothing fancy about this one, with just Giggling Inventor thrown in.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you throw that into any sort of deck right now. Control, aggro.
That Corridor Creeper level up. Yeah, no, pretty standard. Void Ripper is in there. But everything else, there's the only new cards in this list are the Giggling Inventor. And that's it. So it's a very standard Odd Paladin coming out here from Dan. Nothing fancy.
It's DeadDraw with a full keep with this hand.
Do you like that full keep?
I mean, he's got the 1-drops. He's got a Thug. Downside is he's on the coin, but it's kind of negated a little bit by the fact that he has an Edwin, so you potentially make a large Edwin very early.
None will survive.
So this is quite a strong hand from DeadDraw, and it's a versatile hand. There's many ways you can play out your mana to suit the need.
Dan, with no 1-drop, though, is a bit of a feels bad man.
Yeah. Very feels bad man.
Compared to the 1-drops that DeadDraw has got.
Mirrors a little bit what
Dan looks really happy about it, though. I don't know if you noticed, Dan just looks really happy about it.
Yeah, he hasn't changed that expression too much, despite losing a game.
It's very unlike Dan, actually, to look so happy.
Of course, in standard Hearthstone fashion, you top deck your 1-drop the turn after you need it.
He's just going to play the dudes, but they even get cleaned up by what's on board because the coin was expended there by DeadDraw. Very happy to expend the coin on turn 1 because all you're going to do is dagger up most part on turn 2. But you also have 2 1-drops in hand, so it also gives you that versatility on the next turn.
Right, so seeing no 1-drop from Dan, DeadDraw sees that he is actually very much ahead on board. This does make his next few turns a bit awkward. He might just drop the Thug as a 3-3.
If you're on ladder, do you just like insta-concede this game?
No. I believe. I always believe. I mean, for Dan, it might be a strategy of just going wide again. And just keep going wide. Hope you draw 1-drops, keep pressing that button, and eventually you're going to have something stick. Kind of happened with Leroy. If he can draw something like Giggling Adventure on turn 5, that's going to give you the breathing room needed to get back onto this board.
And it is just going to be that turn 3. Like you said, it wasn't a particularly happy turn, but you have to assume that what has Dan got to answer a turn 3 hench clan thug? How do I say that? Thug? Anyway.
Yeah, a 3-3 or 4-4 doesn't matter too much when you're just trading into 1-1s a lot of the time. It does get out of range of them all anyway.
And you can actually Cold Blood Leroy this turn as well. If you not Cold Blood Edwin this turn if you wanted to.
I like it. It gets a 4-4 out there and it starts putting on some pressure.
You trade into these 1-1s, and actually this board is starting to look pretty grim if you're Dan's side of things. However, you do get some value at the Corridor Creeper coming soon, hopefully.
Now, Dan would have loved a Giggling Inventor here. It would have just got him straight back onto the board. DeadDraw going quite narrow with his board right now after doing all those trades. But from his side, he's really not got much.
Why does DeadDraw look like he's Cortana? He's like He's like kind of ethereal. Like looks like he's an AI from Halo. Like when he stood up there.
For all we know, he could be. I mean, I've not met the guy.
How much do you know about DeadDraw? This is the question. Is he our first AI entrant into the Hearthstone Premiership?
A computer designed to play top level
Hearthstone. He is 2-0 in the Premiership.
I wouldn't put it past him.
I wouldn't put it past him. Does the Premiership know?
Is someone in the rules about that?
Is there something in the rules about AI playing Hearthstone? DeadDraw, we're on to you.
So, DeadDraw with the Giggling Inventor, something that Dan's going to grimace at because he wanted that so much last turn.
Do you know what the turn is for next, Dan? Bottom right-hand corner.
Optimal play, I think.
That's the optimal play for Dan. DeadDraw just going to continue trade. I think you trade into everything maybe, but no, you want to hit face.
Yeah, I think if you just even if
I can imagine Dan just clapping. Turn too late again, boys.
Oh my word. Not terrible here, to be honest.
No, but you can't. You could might one of your own little Neurotrons, maybe.
I don't think you do bump the shield off. They're likely going to be doing that for you somewhere. You want to keep going wide, and attacking into these taunts essentially gives DeadDraw an extra attack next turn because he wants to be clearing off your 1/1s.
Is he thinking about whether to might one of his Neurotrons, though? That's the question.
The thing is, if he mites
it's just
one
an easy
of them,
trade for the 2-1, yeah.
Then DeadDraw just kills the mited one, so it's not actually that great.
Because you just do a divine into divine for dead, and then he trades the 2-1 into the mited.
He could honestly mite either the 1/1 or the Corridor Creeper like he has.
That keeps it safer and makes it trade better in the long run, which I like. I mean,
one of the reasons to do it is essentially you're probably looking to Vine Cleaver next turn, so you're not going to have the mana available to use it.
And a 0 mana 2/5 with a 1 mana spell to make it a 5/5 is not that bad, really.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't do a lot, but it does something.
You hate playing Might when you don't have charge on Might, obviously.
Yeah,
so.
it's like those bananas.
Yeah. But when you're behind, we do strange things.
I mean, one thing that Might has done is played very nicely around this Void Ripper. Flipping the 2/5 Corridor Creeper into a 5/2 makes it way easier to deal with.
Dan playing the 4D chess.
I mean, DeadDraw's just saying, I don't want to deal with this Corridor Creeper, so I'm not going to. And
4 damage into the face, surely. Or do you just
the
trade?
worry is if there's a hero power level up with a value trade, it's really very strong from Dan.
It's a pretty good swing turn for sure. And now Dan, and this looks like a Vine Cleaver turn. It could also be a hero power level up turn, but I don't think that trades particularly well.
No.
And you want to get more and more. I think you need way more value out of the level up now.
Yeah, Vine Cleaver into level up is one of the strongest things that this deck can do. Might be enough to get him back. There is a lot of damage he's facing. He's on 19. Potentially 14 already.
Oh, let's have a look. True Silver plus Deadly Poison makes him a 6 attack weapon. That would turn it into a 5 Hench Clan Thug, which would give you 11 overall, plus... Oh, he's 1-off lethal, boys.
Wow.
There isn't anything spicy that you can do with Void Ripper here.
No, unfortunately, the health totals are the wrong way around.
Lethal. But if you don't trade here, then there's the massive swing turn with level up.
Yeah, that's the thing that...
You can never 1-off lethal as Rogue into an odd Paladin. It's just too risky.
That's the thing that Vine Cleaver does, is like, you can't actually keep their board clear from... because they can just generate 4 of them on 1 turn anyway. Sometimes you just have to say, I just hope they don't have level up. And I think that's what DeadDraw is going for with this strategy.
If he 1-off lethals him, and then 4... I mean, that wouldn't even be 4. That would be 6.
Okay, he's... I mean, he's going to play for board again, but... I mean, Dan can still just swing with the level up.
Low value out the Deadly Poison. You hate to see it. But has put him down to 6. And I think he's saying, well, okay, if he trades here, he's going to take a lot of face damage that puts him down very low. And then I have some tools to get through this level up board.
I'm not sure he's got enough, though.
No.
He gets 5 taunts this turn, and the Righteous Protector for another taunt. He can kill off the Henchkang Thud with this dude right now. I think Dan's stabilized.
He's
really hard for...
done it.
It's really hard for Rogue to actually deal 3 damage. If they're on 2, you can get through with an SI7 agent. But 3 is quite a hard number.
Maybe it was better to put him down to 1 and just say, I hope a top decker an SI7.
I think so, because your board was big enough that the only real major punish is some sort of taunts that you can't get through anyway, either through a level up or a giggling inventor, which is going to put you so far behind on board that going for a board strategy from then is not going to win you the game.
DeadDraw just froze while he was computing every outcome. Pesky AIs.
Yeah.
And then Dan is going to slam that Righteous Potato at the end. Just wanted to think about it. It's not good enough though, boys. It's not good enough. And
he's going to have to get through these taunts the hard way, which is looking like true silver champion.
Does he Void Ripper to get the Void Ripper on board and keep the Edwin? Yeah, it just makes the Edwin into a bit more of a value trade.
Yep. I like this. I mean, one thing he could have considered doing is actually killing the Divine Shield with his other minion. That way he keeps more minions alive to get through eventually, because you're going to have to get through this 1-1 at some point anyway.
Fungalmancer looks nice.
Yep.
I mean, it's the only thing that looks good to playable really in hand.
I mean, one thing that Dan really wants to be doing here is keeping taunts alive. He can't actually use his weapon on either of these minions because they got 3 attack and he's on 3 health. So it's going to be quite hard to actually, you know,
to clear things up easily.
Because it's one thing being ahead on board, but you do need to have those taunts as well, otherwise you are just going to die.
Probably have to trade here for Dan.
I mean, it doesn't always have to. The punish is Vilespine, and he's already seen one. He might be thinking, I don't have enough taunts to survive. What?
I trade everything.
If I go face, I've got a Leroy and a Fungal Monster in hand. Can I set up a lethal here? So he's going for that.
So the punish, obviously he's got lethal next turn. The punish is a Vilespine at the top.
Yeah, a Vilespine would be lethal for DeadDraw, where it wouldn't be if he had traded.
Fungalmancer does it, I think. Yeah, Fungalmancer does it.
Yeah, Fungalmancer also a punish here. So maybe Dan should have taken 1 trade here instead of 2, and he might have still set up lethal. I'm not too sure on that though. But yeah, DeadDraw finds the out and finds the lethal.
That was the big decision Dan had to make at the end there. He could have set up lethal for next turn or could have traded, and the Fungalmancer punished him quite heavily. You're right. I think you always have to think about like how many of those particular outcomes were worse for you. I think Cold Blood would have done it. I think Fungalmancer would have done it. Leroy would have done it.
Yeah,
there was plenty of things that would have done it, I suppose, if you look at it. But
yeah, I mean, in combination with the deck hand that we saw, but you have to expect at least some part of damage. He did hold on to that card. He didn't play it last turn, so
you're probably thinking, is that Cold Blood? Is that, you know, whatever? But
yeah.
I think, look, end of the day, as a Hearthstone player, you can't play around everything.
True.
You have to have some win condition that you're trying to stick to at some point, you know?
I mean, and Dan did recognize that I'm not going to be able to find any more taunts. I can't survive this damage. I need to push my own damage on the other end. So that's what he went for. He went up to set up a lethal for the next turn. But unfortunately, he was punished. Yeah,
he was indeed. Right, let's go into the mulligan for our, not our last game. It just looked like it was going to be the last game because right now, DeadDraw is doing very well. It is going to be that odd Paladin once more going up against the Shudderwock Shaman with heavy board clear. Because he's got the, he has got the, what's the card called? Electro Storm Surge, and he has got the double Lightning Storm. He has got the double Volcano. He's got Hagatha.
Yep. Electro Storm Surge, very versatile card. One of the best things I've seen it for is actually Farsight.
Oh, yeah.
You play that on turn 6 and you get 2 discounted cards, which is very powerful. Oftentimes the healing range is like too much. You don't really need 24 healing over at 12.
Reporting for duty.
Just enjoying some naan bread over here. Thanks for covering for me. Thanks for covering for me, John Bray. Hungry boy. Flew from Barcelona today. Only had breakfast. Also didn't sleep that well. telling you about my life here. Sorry, guys.
Naan bread is a solution to all of that.
Is it? I mean, yeah, I think naan bread's pretty solid.
Laced with caffeine to keep you awake, I guess.
I don't know how much I like that. Naan bread laced with caffeine.
Right, on to the game.
I don't know. I'm quite enjoying theory crafting about naan bread and caffeine combinations.
Okay, DeadDraw choosing not to go for the tempo mind control tech. Deviation from what Paradox did in the previous series, although he is running a more control version of his Shudderwock, whereas Paradox was running a very tempo-heavy one.
I think he was wondering whether he glacial shards just to trade him, but it doesn't really do much, just glacial sharding a 1-1.
Yeah, I think if you hold on to the glacial shard, is potentially... Because you know you're going to lose on board here. Like, guaranteed.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way fighting for this board right now. You're going to have to swing with the Lightning Storm at some point.
He doesn't run any Fireflies, so there's no compared to Paradox's list where there was some early tempo with the Fireflies, no Fireflies in this particular deck list. Although Sour Knight Chain Gang is not a bad pickup because it will allow him to contest at least some of this board just in terms of pure stat value.
I mean, again, is it something he wants to be doing, or is it a case of where he wants that as follow-up after he's used a board clear? Because
True.
You could just go for the Life Drinker here, and it puts something onto the board.
Kind of demands, and also is not as weak to Void Ripper, which we know exists in Dan's deck, whereas Sour Knight would get pretty hard.
Yeah, one thing you want to be doing when you have a swing turn.
Actually the best pickup for the MC tech.
Or is it?
Well, I suppose there's the coin level up. Oh, yeah. That is something that we didn't think about. The coin level up is going to have a huge impact here. There was the option for Lightning Storm as well. Given the amount of dudes on board, would you have been Lightning Storming that turn, do you think, if the coin was held that long?
No.
No?
The reason being, you can stop the Paladin board for one turn. But if you have no follow-up to that, they're just going to go wide again, and you're going to have to deal with it again. Yeah, a level up here is kind of good.
I mean, he could roll the 25%er if he trades into the totem. I forgot what it's called. What's that special totem? Wrath of Air totem. If he trades into the Wrath of Air totem, then he could roll a 25%er to get guaranteed clear on the level up. If he doesn't trade into the Wrath of Air totem, it's a guaranteed clear from Lightning Storm anyway. Yeah,
one of the things that DeadDraw's done, even if there's a level up here, he still has all these stats on board which help contest it. So if you do hit some 2s on your Lightning Storm, you'll be able to use the stats that you have on board to help clear up.
Yeah,
regardless.
Dan with the Leroy in hand, again, just playing to that condition of hit the face.
I mean, he knows that DeadDraw has to do the clearing up here.
That's incredible.
Oh,
did he get a
no, I
freeze?
think he high-rolled the whole thing. Oh, he did.
God.
He high-rolled the whole thing.
Why has Dan not got a cam today?
Oh, no, Dan.
Oh, my word.
Oh, you pesky AI manipulating the RNG.
Computers work together, you know that.
Yeah. He was scanning with his Argent Squire. And he was like, I can't hit any of them. Oh, my God. That is potentially a turn that has won the game for DeadDraw. Not totally won the game, but it's definitely put him in a good position again.
Yeah, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Dan does have ways to get back onto the board. It's
called his hero power.
Yeah. This is one of the best moves he could have got. Allow him to go wide again. And it's not like the Shudderwock Shaman can kind of kill you.
No.
They do have to just play to their sort of combo at the end.
This is a decent turn for this. Chain dudes.
So I think DeadDraw's taking this trade, just recognizing that Fungal Monster's potentially backbreaking if I don't.
Yes.
Kind of just needs to bide his time a little bit so he can draw towards like Hagatha, that sort of thing.
He has got Healing Rain as well. If he ever gets into a really, really tough situation, Healing Rain is a very good way of stalling out a turn at least.
Imagine one of the ways he's going to use the Healing Rain is he's going to take some value trades where he can.
Sure.
And just use it to keep his board healthy.
He also got Farsight, like you said, that can combo very nicely with Electro Storm Surge. Maybe he can pull off something big with, with the RNG that DeadDraw's been getting today, maybe.
Dan's found a way to start inching this board back into his favour.
I quite like itching. Itching this board back into his favour. Something I'm going to use in the future. Thanks for that one.
It's alright. You can send the royalties to my house.
Okay, I will do. The royalties that I make from that phrase should be next to nothing.
Oh, I thought you said you liked it.
Well, I just don't know how much it'll actually make, you know. I think in terms of royalties of phrases, some questionable. You know, how
I could give you some examples, but then I'd have to pay some royalties.
Right, God, there. To you, to yourself. Pay royalties to yourself. That's a good Zola target, actually, and it's allowed him to, again, bring that board back into a manageable state for him. He also manages to get a 3-3 on board. And then DeadDraw freezes the face. I think for Vine Cleaver. I think the reason you froze there is for Vine Cleaver.
Right, yeah.
Not even think. I'm certain the reason he was for Vine Cleaver.
Quite smart, realising this is Dan's best way to get onto the board. He is starting to take quite a bit of damage, so with a Life Drinker in hand, DeadDraw could be going for a sort of a zoo-ish strategy with the Shadow Ball, which it can do sometimes. Often much better when you've played Prince Kalasef, but he is starting to amass quite a sizable board right now.
Dan's hand is hot garbage.
Oh, yeah.
That's.
I mean, DeadDraw's like, haha, I got him. He can't use his Vine Cleaver. And Dan's like, don't even have one.
Tempo Leroy? No. We're past that.
Reporting for duty.
And again, Raid Leader is one of those cards that is not happy to be played when not charging. You know?
Oh, yeah.
Because it just...
Been a few of them today.
Yeah. Although, you know, Raid Leader does force a specific trade or whatever. You know, it depends if that kind of value comes to you. Double Farsight is there, if DeadDraw's thinking about it.
So Dan's going for the face strategy. He's like, if DeadDraw's hand was stuff like Volcano, it's not really that great here because it damages his own side of the board.
Yes.
So if DeadDraw doesn't have healing, like a hand like he does with heals in it, this is quite a good strategy from Dan. Because he's going to say, you're going to have to clear this board anyway, and a lot of your board clears damage your own side. Unfortunately for him, the Healing Rain is a huge punish for this strategy, but I like Dan's sort of aggressive strategy.
I think if you look at his hand, he knows that the only way you start to come back here is by putting him within Leroy range. As pretty much every one of Dan's games today has been. It's like, it has to be in Leroy range.
It might work one day.
I mean, I don't know if we like, difficult to go back and analyze individual turns, but it has just felt that the hands and the way that Dan has played has lent itself to you have to have some sort of Leroy closeness there.
Yeah. DeadDraw choosing not to go for the Healing Rain wisely realizes that he's well outside of lethal range right now.
Raid Leader will get some value off the Hex target though, which is always nice because that often ends up being a bit useless.
Vine Cleaver is a great pickup here. If he sends this to the face, suddenly
Leroy next turn looks good.
Lethal.
Yeah, and if DeadDraw, I mean DeadDraw must see that. He knows, he's looking at that card in the left-hand side of Dan's hand, and he's like, if that's not Leroy, I'll eat my hat.
True. Now, DeadDraw does run one Gluttonous Ooze, which is a potential boon.
And he's got the next draw on +2 Farsights to try and pick it out.
Something that Dan could do here is go Leroy and Raid Leader now and just send it to the face and set up with one swing of the Vine Cleaver. That would play around Gluttonous Ooze specifically. Yes,
and it would also... Sometimes you might just not just see that from DeadDraw. I mean, DeadDraw's gonna Healing Rain if that's the case.
Yeah.
But
that's what he's going to go for. He's going to play around. He's going to say, I can't really beat Healing Rain, but I could beat an Ooze. So this is really quite smart from Dan.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. Puts him within 4. And so DeadDraw now has to think, well, I'm going to Healing Rain this turn. Oh, that's a good Lightning Storm Healing Rain. Do you want to trade in, though? That's the thing. Do you want to trade?
Yeah, the damaged minions are actually taken away from the heal on his own face.
He played around it, boys.
There is, but he didn't. He couldn't beat this, unfortunately. And now he's going to have to go for the Vine Cleaver, which sent a nice 3 swings would have done it. But of course, the Ooze is going to punish that, and I don't think he's got the time.
He's not even got the time. He's dead next turn. I don't think there's anything Dan can do.
The victory.
And Dan gets 3-0'd by DeadDraw here.